Anybody? Sorry. You. Does David want to come share with me then? Good morning. Welcome to the meeting of Charities and Trust Committee. We may be a minute later, we're just having a few technical problems before we started. Item 1, apologies.
I've had apologies from Phil Hewitt and Mark Winnington.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest by anybody? No declaration of interests. Item 3, minutes of meeting held on the 11th of June 2024. We've also had the minutes. Do you agree that there are... Agreed? I also agree, so I will sign the minutes. The next item and the main item of business is Endowment Charities Annual Accounts 2023-2024.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I'm here this morning representing the Director of Finance, Melanie Stokes, Assistant Director for Treasury and Pensions. As you're aware, the County Council is the custodian trustee for a number of endowment charities, some where there is income and some where there is property and land. The accounts have to be presented to the committee for approval because one of the roles of the committee is to actually ensure that the charities' affairs have been conducted in a proper manner, ensure they're solvent and well run, and that they deliver the charitable objectives for the benefit of those whom they were intended. So in the pack today, you've got accounts for 13 charities that are required to prepare accounts, and you are fulfilling your role as custodian trustee to approve these accounts. The accounts include a statement of income and expenditure and a summary of investments at 31st of March 2024. Where a charity has income of over $25,000, there is an additional requirement, and there is a short trustee's annual report to be prepared, and we have to have an independent audit of those accounts as well. And that applies to 3 of the 13 accounts, and you have the annual report and the auditor report in the pack today. So, not preparing to go through all of the detail in the appendices, but I think just as a summary really, the 13 accounts that are presented to you today have just under £13 million in permanent endowment, which you recall last time we had CCLA to come and present, and that explained where that permanent endowment is invested. That ranges from 5.9 million for the biggest charity to a few £100 for the smaller charities. Across 23-24, there was £361,000 of income across the charities, predominantly from the investments with CCLA, and obviously some interest that they accrue for the cash they don't spend day to day. And the expenditure on the accounts was £363,000, so a slight surplus of expenditure over income, but good to see that the charities are being used and for the purposes that they are meant to be used for within the terms of the trustees. So we have £425,000 surplus income and that is invested day to day as part of the county council's pot of funds, surplus revenue monies, and appropriate interest is paid back to the charities. So just for your information and approval, if you wouldn't mind, thank you. Well, happy to take any questions first, of course.
I think we learned at the June meeting was how it's invested as well in the high moral type investments, which is what really we want as a county council. Councillor Smith, do you have any comments?
Sorry. My only question, Chairman, is the same thing I think I'd probably ask each year since I've sat on this committee, whether there are charities which we manage which would be better handed down to the organisations responsible, that the amounts are so small that they're not of great relevance to us. And I wondered whether anything fell into that category.
We have been doing a lot of that. I mean, we had over 40 of these a few years ago, and we've reduced them down as far as we can. The charities that we retain the oversight of is where there is land or property. So although you might have the income here, they may have a property or a land. Tamworth Youth Centre, for example, is one of the ones. And obviously that will be managed when that property is sold. We will have to manage the income because that will be for multiple schools as well. And that's the other thing with a lot of these. They're not just for one individual institution, they're for several schools that take part. So the schools allocate the income, but we have that oversight as a trustee, the custodian trustee. We determine that they are the managing trustees. There are a couple of new ones that are looking to be set up, and obviously, you know, trying to form a committee or somebody to have the oversight of those is quite difficult. So they are education endowments predominantly that are managed by the schools, but they allocate the income. We do the administration, and obviously you act as the custodian trustee. So where possible, we endeavour to do that, but it's just difficult where there are multiple interests and land or buildings.
I have no questions, so I'll just go through the recommendations then. Do you have any questions of us first?
No, just I suppose as long as you're receiving the information that you need, that's you know, and you're happy with what you get.
Yes.
Acknowledge the point that has been made. But as I say, we do look into things like that because clearly we don't want to be doing this if we don't have to, because we don't get paid for it. And it's a resource that we have to, you know, to find.
Could you just refresh my memory of the total value of the trusts that we have under our management?
So the permanent endowment for here is about 12.7 billion, and that's what we invest with CCLA. But obviously where there are property and land, we don't value the property and land, so there will be incremental values on that as well.
With Chairman, with the dip that we've had in returns in the last couple of years and then the recovery again, are we much the same as we were? Are we holding the value of what we're looking at?
Yeah, the value of the permanent endowment, because it's mainly invested in equities, has gone up a bit this year. But the one thing, obviously, that the charities rely on is the income, more so than the capital appreciation of the investment. And the one thing with CCLA, or Charities Church and Local Authority, the fund manager that you met at the last meeting, is they declare a dividend and they maintain stability on that dividend. So they typically, if they get good years, they will hold some money back in reserve so that they can continue to pay the same level of income out that if they have a bad year. So it's predominantly for these charities about the income and not the value of the investments.
Thank you. It's probably a silly question, but where we're looking at managing a multiple of funds for the various charities we manage, do we invest, our funds are invested as a lump sum, aren't they? So do we just apportion the returns out across the charities, or how do we actually deal with that?
So the practicality is that each charity has an account number with CCLA, and they will have their own investments and the dividends are paid to that account number. So for the permanent endowment that is invested in the funds with CCLA, that's quite simple. They just do it. We get the income in and we account for it as part of the papers that you've seen today. With the revenue monies, where they're monies that aren't spent, they're just sitting in the bank account waiting expenditure or when the income comes in, we invest those as part of the county council's pot of money, and obviously we know how much is invested, and we pay interest at the same rate the county council gets on its pot of money. And they wouldn't really get that amount of money if they were sitting in a bank account, in a charity account, in a local bank, because they don't pay that well to those sort of accounts. So actually they're benefiting from being part of a larger pot of money as well. And again, it's that sort of, we know how much they've got invested at a point in time, and the interest is paid on that and accumulated and reinvested.
Okay, recommendations. A, that the Charities and Trust Committee approve the annual accounts for 2023-24 for the 13 charities where Stafford County Council is custodian trustee. Okay, approved and seconded. And that the Charities and Trust Committee approve a trustee's annual report for the 3 charities which required to submit such to the Charity Commission. David, approved again? Okay, approved. Okay, both items have been noted and approved by us. Can I ask that you thank everyone who's involved in this? Because it's a big job to get it all done with the accuracy of, and at least you're all qualified, not like a certain person who keeps speaking for the country now. So thank you very much. Yes?
It seems, from our point of view as the committee approving it, to have whisked it all through very quickly, but it doesn't reflect the amount of work which goes into preparing the accounts and managing the accounts for one year to the next. So from Vice Chairman's point of view, can I just pass on our thanks for that, and I hope that they don't feel that we've dealt with you lightly.